As we continue to talk about players that the Colts should or shouldn't pay, one of the guys that comes up a lot and people talk about in both regards is Gardner Minshew. And I want to start here by saying that we all like Gardner as a person, right? He's an awesome human being. He's an electric person, has an amazing personality. But this conversation is about Gardner Minshew, the quarterback. Gardner Minshew, should we keep him going forward after this season? Should we keep him? And there's a lot that goes into that, right? There's a whole element of, yeah, Gardner might want to go somewhere else to try to compete for a starting job. That's what's likely to happen, and I understand that. But from the Colts' perspective, if you look at the landscape of things, like, yeah, you could bring back Jacoby Brissett, and he could be the backup to Anthony Richardson. So there are other guys, right? Guy like Taylor Heineke probably going to be available. Baker Mayfield on a one-year deal right now with Tampa. We'll see what happens there. So there's a lot that could happen. There could be other options for the Colts. But when you look at Gardner Minshew, he's already spent time in this offensive system. That's one of the positives of him being able to come in and start for us, is the fact that he's ran this Shane Steichen offense before. So I think that little bit right there is the thing that's going to say, yeah, we should keep him, obviously. And he's doing it with these same players. He's on this team, been in this locker room. So that's going to matter. So when you break everything down, the smart thing to do would probably be to find a way where you can bring Gardner back. But when you talk about that, right, you look at what he's done in his career. And we've kind of talked about this before, but if you weren't here for those conversations, we'll just go through it real quick. 2 years in Jacksonville, he had a 7-13 record, threw for 63% completion percentage, 5,530 yards, 37 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. And those sound like good numbers, right? And those are good numbers for the most part, taking care of the ball, 37 to 11. That's a good ratio. But it was only 6.9 yards per attempt, right? And those Jacksonville Jaguars teams were not very good. So that plays into it also. But then he goes to Philly, where he plays in 9 games. He started 4 games, had a 1-3 record in those games. But he had a 62.5% completion percentage with 1,102 yards, 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and an 8.1 yards per attempt. Then this year with the Colts, he's played in 10 games. He started 6 games. He's 3-3 in those games. And he's sitting at 63.7 completion percentage, 1,721 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. And that's 6.7 yards per attempt. And all in all, he's at 63% completion, right on the dot at 63% completion for his career, with 52 touchdowns and 21 interceptions. And for his career, he's at 7 yards per attempt. And that's not good enough, right? Not good enough to be a starter number, at least, right? A guy that's not getting the ball downfield consistently. And we've seen why. He's not the guy that's going to throw it 60 yards. He's also not a guy that's going to consistently hit a guy that's 30, 40 yards downfield, right? Gardner's sweet spot is the short to mid range. So when you're looking at just the stats and you're wondering, should he, this is a guy has numbers like a guy that could be a starting quarterback. And that's really the discussion around him. And that's why he might not stay here. Again, he might want to go compete for a starting job somewhere. And, we have Anthony Richardson. There's really no opportunity for that. But with Anthony Richardson's playing style, I think there's a chance that he decides, yeah, maybe I stay here, continue to make money as a backup quarterback, help Anthony Richardson any way I can. And then, if he gets hurt again, I can step in and continue to show what I can do. And he's like, yeah, he probably should be starting on a team, but he's one of those guys that's going to win you enough games that you're not going to end up with a pick where you could get a franchise quarterback, but he's also not going to get you to a Super Bowl. You would have to have a dominating defense. Like if he goes to the Niners, is he playing like Brock Purdy? I don't think so. And I feel like that's kind of the measuring stick, is using the Niners as an example, because every quarterback that goes in there has success. We've seen with Jimmy G, much different quarterback with the Raiders than he was there on the Niners. They also have a really good team, but Kyle Shanahan's system works for a lot of different quarterbacks. And I just don't know if we see Gardner go into that system, would he produce the same? I just don't think he would, even though, again, I think he's good enough to be a starter somewhere. On one of the more bottom teams in the league that would take a chance on him. But then the other side of this conversation is, how much money do you allocate to your backup quarterback? How valuable would a guy like Gardner Minshew be as a backup quarterback? The deal that Gardner signed this year was for $3.5 million. And when you look at quarterbacks around the league, other backup quarterbacks around the league, Jacoby Brissett, 1 year, $8 million. Taylor Heineke, 2 years, $14 million. That's $7 million a year. Mitchell Trubisky, 2 years, $11.25 million, which is $5.625 million a year. Tyrod Taylor, $5.5 million a year in his 2-year contract. Marcus Mariota making $5 million a year. So we see kind of where the range is for these quarterbacks. And then you have Gardner Minshew down at $3.5 million. And you have to think he's going to want some more money with all these contracts going up, quarterbacks getting paid so much money. He's going to want some more money. And I think with Anthony Richardson on his rookie deal, you could afford to give him some, especially if Anthony Richardson, with what Gardner's had to do this year, he wishes he signed a bigger contract. So he's going to want, more. Probably be more incentives, right? A contract where he's only guaranteed so much, like $3.5 million guaranteed, but he could make, 10 million if he plays a certain amount throughout the season. And it would be interesting to see what the numbers would have to look like if you make a deal like that. What does the cap number look like? Because even though Anthony Richardson's on his rookie deal, right? If you allocate, $9 million in the cap to Gardner Minshew, that just takes away from how you can build around the quarterback, right? With good receivers that are going to be on the market, it would limit your potential to be able to get some of the top flight guys. Other guys at other positions might limit the potential to pick up difference makers on offense or defense in the offseason. So, maybe the answer is they let go of Gardner Minshew and they just keep Kellen Mond and they try to draft somebody else late in the draft or something. That would be a third quarterback that they might keep on the team as an emergency quarterback. Like, I don't know what they could do. There's so many options. Again, so many quarterbacks that could be available next offseason. But when it comes to Gardner, it feels like, again, with the way he knows the offense, his relationship already with the team and with Anthony Richardson, like if there's a chance to bring him back and it not cost too much, I think that's something they should do. I think that's something Gardner should think about doing if he doesn't have an opportunity to go and be a for sure starter somewhere. Because what we've seen from Gardner, like, yes, again, it hasn't all been great. His touchdown to interception, again, with us is 8 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. If you include the fumbles that he's lost in there, he has more turnovers than he does touchdowns. But we could do much worse in terms of a backup. And if anything happens to Anthony Richardson in the future, I'd rather have somebody that's competent as this team continues to build in this new era with Shane Steichen. So for me, ideally, Gardner Minshew is back on a deal next year, 2 or 3 years for, $5 or $6 million max, like max 5 or 6 million. And of course, I'd like to know what you think about all this. What should we do with Gardner? How do you think it should all go? You let me know down in the comments section. Don't forget to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button and keep notifications on. We have videos every single day on this channel, so make sure you're not missing out. And with that said, as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and go Colts.